Your brain has a built-in survival system designed to keep you alive. But right now, that same system is likely destroying your peace of mind. Anxiety is a preemptive decision your brain makes before you even have a chance to form a conscious thought. You know the feeling. A vague email from your boss pops up, and instantly your stomach drops, your heart races, your vision narrows. Your body is physically preparing to fight for your life over a calendar invite. This immediate, overwhelming biological takeover has a specific name. It's called an amygdala hijack. It is the exact fraction of a second where your emotional response completely blocks out your rational thought. The existence of this hijack proves that our physical stress responses are disconnected from the actual danger level of our modern reality. As a neuroradiologist, I see emotional sabotage as a measurable physical event that occurs inside a machine like this. The biological origin point for your panic attacks and the arguments that ruin relationships is a tiny, almond-shaped cluster of neurons called the amygdala. Psychologist Daniel Goleman coined the term amygdala hijack, effectively mapping our psychological, emotional intelligence directly to biological brain processes. When this tiny cluster detects a threat, the rational brain is forced offline, making logical decision-making biologically impossible in that moment. To see how this hijack works, we have to look at the starting line of a biological race. Every piece of sensory data you process first hits a central relay station called the thalamus. From there, the signal splits into two distinct paths. The first route is the low road. It takes only 12 to 15 milliseconds to shoot a crude, unfiltered signal straight from the thalamus directly to the amygdala. The second route is the high road. This signal routes up through the sensory cortex and the prefrontal cortex, so your brain can logically analyze what you're seeing, but it takes several milliseconds longer to arrive. That tiny gap in time has a terrifying consequence. The amygdala receives the alert and triggers a full-blown fight or flight response before your prefrontal cortex even has a chance to figure out if the threat is real. Think of the amygdala as a highly sensitive smoke alarm. To guarantee your survival, it always assumes the worst. It will gladly fire off life or death warnings for a slightly burnt piece of toast. Because of this biological race, we're hardwired to react with absolute terror before our logic can even form an opinion on what's happening. In an ancient environment, that fast, low road kept our ancestors alive. If a predator jumped out of the brush, taking the time to carefully analyze the situation meant death. Reacting instantly meant survival. But here is the glitch in our biology. Your amygdala cannot tell the difference between a lethal physical predator and a modern psychological pressure, like public speaking or a passive-aggressive text message. When you experience social rejection or a professional failure, your brain fires the exact same neurological threat circuitry as if you were being physically attacked. The modern anxiety epidemic is the result of a perfectly functioning ancient survival tool, drastically misinterpreting the modern world. The good news is that the amygdala can be retrained, but right now, most people are accidentally strengthening their own fear loop through avoidance. When you run away from an anxious situation, you validate the amygdala's false alarm. By escaping, you confirm to your brain that the threat was indeed real and deadly, ensuring it will fire even harder the next time. To stop this cycle, we target the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, or VMPFC. It acts as a rational braking system, sending inhibitory signals to shut down the amygdala. Through neuroplasticity, thickening these pathways strengthens your ability to suppress panic, visible on these fMRI scans. Overcoming anxiety requires structurally reinforcing the brain's rational override cables. You can start building these cables immediately using a technique called affect labeling. Simply naming your emotion out loud forces blood flow and neural activity away from the amygdala and back into the prefrontal cortex. Then use the physiological sigh, 2 quick inhales followed by 1 long exhale. This acts as a manual biological override that calms the brainstem and severs the amygdala's grip on your heart rate. Next is microexposure. By purposefully facing small fears, you teach the amygdala to decouple a harmless stimulus from the panic response, slowly updating its internal threat database. But all of this fails if you ignore the physiological amplifier, sleep deprivation. A lack of sleep makes the amygdala up to 60% more reactive to perceived threats, stripping away your brain's natural braking power. The modern threats we fear most aren't physically real. Mastering these biological overrides stops the brain from lying to us about our safety. If you want to master your brain instead of being controlled by it, hit the subscribe button.